PowerPoint in view mode. Right now we see it as edit.
Oh.
Looks good, thank you. All right, everybody. First and foremost, thank you for your flexibility from last week to today. Appreciate you attending. Today, we are pleased to welcome Amy Huppy and Kara Sexton from the Institute for Community Inclusion, ICI. They're going to guide us through two valuable SELN training opportunities that the DDA has secured. Following the presentation, we're also going to review statewide themes and trends related to the supports intensity scale and some LTSS Maryland troubleshooting tips. We'll also cover policy and program updates, including self-direction and LTSS Maryland updates. We'll provide an overview of community living resources available on our DDA website that CCSs can use to support their participants, and discuss what's on the horizon for CCSs. We're going to be highlighting key communications, such as LTSS Maryland Spotlight released in February and March, that are going to be impacting CCSs. And at the end of the presentation, we'll allocate time to answer any questions you have. Feel free to enter your questions into the chat box, and we will call on you to ask them live. If you prefer to remain anonymous, simply indicate that in the beginning of your question, and we will respect your discretion, okay? We will appreciate your patience. We do appreciate your patience, and we will make every effort to address all questions before concluding, of course. Next slide, please. So, as you all know, Maryland is an employment-first state, and competitive integrated employment is a fundamental right for everybody. So we understand that there can be challenges, concerns, and even some fears when coordinators of community services ask participants and their families about daily life and employment goals. So to help address these and other related topics, we're offering CCS staff and CCS leadership 2 learning opportunities through the State Employment Leadership Network. One opportunity is designed for CCS staff to take the Supporting a Vision for Employment course independently at their own pace. And the second opportunity is for CCS leadership, offering facilitated discussions in conjunction with taking the Supported practices in day-to-day CCS work. The SELN, the State Employment Leadership Network, is a joint program between the Institute for Community Inclusion at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, and the National Association of State Directors of Developmental Disabilities Services. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Amy Huppy and Kara Sexton from the Institute of Community Inclusion, who will be sharing their expertise and guiding us through these 2 exciting SELN training opportunities that the DDA has secured with a limited number of slots available. Amy and Kara, you may share your screen.
Good morning. Could I quickly get permission to share my screen? While we're working on that, I'm Amy Huppy, as Nicolette introduced me, and I'm from the Institute of Community Inclusion, kind of that part of the SELN. But again, as Nicolette said, we are a partnership with the National Association of State Directors of Developmental Disability Services, and we work closely together. So as mentioned, you're an employment first state.
And while Amy is working on that, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Kara Sexton. I'm a program assistant with the SELN, primarily supporting their e-learning and hub information.
So as I was mentioning, obviously, again, your employment first state, and I've been working with the State Employment Leadership Network for a while to continue to improve those outcomes and see different ways to approach employment. So the first thing that I wanted to show is from ICI's IDD National Survey on Employment and Day Supports. It shows the percent of people participating in integrated employment in Maryland, which is above average. So I think that that's exciting. Wanted to celebrate that with this group. And then also think about how we continue to support people in employment. If you're familiar with the National Core Indicators, it is a survey of people in services. So they directly answer questions about their experience in services. And from that in Maryland, we learned that people that say they have a paid job in the community is about 23% of folks. Of the people that say they do not have a paid job in the community but want to have a job is about 54%. So there's a lot of people interested in employment. We can go to the next slide there. So this is the first one I described. This yellow line is Maryland. So you're definitely above average, which is the orange line there. And next slide, please.
Give me a second. We're on slide 2, right?
Yes. Or well, we're seeing slide 1.
Is that slide 2?
It's still this on slide 1. It looks like the view that you're showing would just have, you would scroll down to the next slide.
That's the wrong. I'm having a terrible time today.
Need Donna.
There we go. Is that slide 2?
I think I can help share my screen and the slides from current slide. I don't want to get present in Teams. I don't know if this is Teams. So here is slide 2, if you could see it.
Perfect. Yep. So again, these are the percentages specifically from folks in Maryland. And mostly this is to point out that there are a lot of folks that are interested in employment that are not currently working that have themselves expressed this interest. And of that 54% of folks that want to work, only 36% of them have a goal in their employment or have an employment goal in their service plan. So we want to point that out as a note of there is a strong role for case managers in the employment process because you are the ones, helping to put together the service plan, helping them connect to services. And so the courses that we're going to talk about are a valuable tool in helping to bring those people that are very interested in employment to actually see those goals in their plan and see progress in that direction. And I'll turn it over to Kara to talk a little bit about our course for all case managers.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. As Amy was addressing some roles for case managers, is that they're a key facilitator in the employment process. They're responsible for learning how to talk with an individual about employment opportunities, how to support a person in pathways relating to employment, and how to address concerns of individuals seeking employment. Additionally, they need to be familiar with the basics of vocational rehabilitations and the roles of partners in the employment processes. Next slide, please. So this is just a little bit about our SELN supporting a vision for employment e-learning course. In some of the material it goes over. So it goes over supporting families, developing a vision for employment, a process from looking for a job to career growth, vocational rehabilitation processes, and the roles and responsibilities of support team members. Maryland has been implementing person-centered planning and updated new services and to support their vision for a meaningful day for each person the system serves. You are doing a great work, and we wanted to just help supplement with this tool. We don't want it to add more burden to your already full plates, and it just is to adjust the goals, adjust the day-to-day conversations with a goal towards employment. This is a little bit about our course structure. So the course includes a lot of problem-based learning that engages learners to find solutions to barriers and problems typically encountered in the employment process. It's interactive and self-paced, which takes about 4 to 5 hours. It's broken into 4 modules. There's 6 weeks sections. So we are currently in the spring section. In order to enroll, you can do it by April 4th. In the summer section, you can enroll on April 21st, and it runs through May 30th. If you're interested in registering for either of these courses, you can reach out to Stephanie, and I can drop her email in the chat.
Thank you, Kara. This is an opportunity some of you may have heard about before. We've been running this course since 2022. So if it sounds familiar, you may have already taken it. Or if you're new, then this is a great opportunity to take advantage of this opportunity. As Nicolette said, there's a limited amount of spots. So please reach out to Stephanie if you're interested. And those limited spots are currently of no cost to you. So hopefully we can get you engaged and help provide some of that knowledge to help people develop a vision for employment, see what the opportunities can be for them, and have some tools of how to have those conversations and how to address concerns with families, with folks, and just feel more confident in how to approach employment with those that you serve. For supervisors, we do have, sorry if you'll jump back, thank you. For supervisors, we have an additional opportunity. So it would include the self-paced course that we've just described. But along with that, we would have about 4 virtual 1-hour discussions. So we would do kind of an introduction about the course, as well as a couple throughout those 4 modules to talk about different questions to consider. We can problem solve different specific situations that you have encountered related to the content and related to employment. We have some hands-on kind of application activities that we'll do and talk about different ways of goal setting. So really the idea is a more directed and facilitated way of thinking about the course and how you might use it in your day-to-day work. Because we all know, trainings are really great, the content is really valuable, but it can be hard to kind of conceptualize that into what you do day to day. So again, this is specifically for supervisors with the end goal that you can then help a lot of your case managers you work with to use some of these guiding questions and tools to think about how to really embed employment and feel confident in those employment conversations day to day. And for those interested in this opportunity, you can reach out to Nicolette specifically, and we will kind of arrange the schedule based on the interest and the schedules of those that are going to be participating. And there is also a limited number of spots for that, so reach out now if you're interested. And I think we might be saving questions till the end, but we're available through the email that was on that screen if you do want to reach out to us with any questions.
Yeah, no, thank you. Really appreciate it. I think that if anybody, so we don't hold you for the whole meeting, if anybody has any questions for you now, please feel free, everyone, to unmute yourself and or ask in the chat box.
It looks like there's just one in the chat, Nicolette. From Larissa, she had asked, of the 23% of CIE people served, it would be interesting to know how many of them are maintaining waiver eligibility.
I think this would be a question that not that Amy and Kara would be able to answer. So if anybody has any questions regarding the SELN e-learning courses, what they offer, please ask now.
I can somewhat address the question. The source of the data is an annual survey that Maryland participates in that's utilizing waiver participation data. So those, let me rethink. That 23% came from NCI, so that's self-reported from people with disabilities. So it would be a little bit hard to track down exactly if they're maintaining services, but they're only asking people that are in services at the time.
Nicolette, it's Marianne. I have a question of Amy and Kara. I think these trainings are wonderful that you're able to offer. I wondered, so I'm Director of Family Support. I wondered, does SELN provide a training for families, knowing that sometimes families can be a barrier to their family members becoming employed? And I just wondered if you thought of that or if you offer it.
That is a great idea. We have definitely considered it. Currently, we only have this version that's really targeted at case managers, but we know that that's also an opportunity / kind of gap in services for families to really have the information about what employment looks like and what's available to them. So we'll definitely keep that in mind.
Great, thanks.
All right, well, Amy and Kara, thank you so much. Again, if anybody thinks of any questions afterwards, Amy and Kara's contact information is in the slides. Feel free to enter it in the chat too, Amy and Kara, if it's easier for our attendees. But just wanted just as a reminder for everyone, completing these modules will count towards the Employment First trainings. That is located on your CCS training matrix, the spreadsheet. So we really hope you take this opportunity that DDA is reserved slots for to enhance your skills and continue making a positive impact in all of the lives that you support. So thank you, Amy, Kara, for your time today. We'll be speaking again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think they sent accidentally in a private message. So I had put Kara's email in the chat, and Stephanie's is there as well. And then they shared mine as well. All right. Now we're going to be going over the statewide themes and trends. If we could go to the next slide, please. We'll be talking about the supports intensity scale assessment. We know it's required for all people new to DDA services and every 5 years thereafter. It's completed before the person-centered plan date so that it may be used during the person-centered planning process. And a certified CIS assessor from Telegen will be emailing the coordinator of community services, the CCS, as you know, if they don't hear back, and they're going to reach out again in 3 business days. The purpose of the contact is for the CCS to support the participant in coordinating the CIS assessment. This includes informing the participants of the requirements of the CIS, what to expect and why. So we encourage CCS agencies to utilize the one-page memo linked to the PowerPoint. It can be found on the DDA website as well, dedicated to the supports intensity scale. And it is important that the CCS is clear that the CIS is going to be completed in person and that 2 or 3 people that know the person well within 3 months or more should be identified and be present for that assessment. And that can include the CCS. So the CCS can help schedule the meeting so that it's completed within 30 days, and confirming a scheduled date is recognized as a billable activity. So please note the assessment reviews medical information and health and safety, and that can support the completion of the HRST. All right, next slide, please. So as of May 2024, personal supports 2-to-1 was added to the LTSS Maryland Detailed Service Authorization Service dropdown. It's come to our attention that adding the service under the DSA, Detailed Service Authorization, is not being completed correctly. So when developing the person-centered plan for a participant seeking this service to meet their assessed need, the CCS must select personal supports 2-to-1 under the Detailed Service Authorization section. And the units entered into the personal supports 2-to-1 service line will cover the cost of both staff members. So it's really important to not double the units. Next slide, please. So when completing an initial person-centered plan for a new waiver, the annual plan date must be manually entered to match the previous waiver's chosen annual plan date. The regional teams have worked with a lot of CCSs regarding this error. And we want to, if it's not entered correctly, it can lead to overlap errors in future PCPs. It can duplicate monitoring and follow-up forms. And it also doesn't reflect the person's chosen annual plan date. So in order to resolve this CCSs again, right, we have to manually input the annual plan date to match the previous waiver program. So it has to be the same annual plan date. And this will ensure accuracy, and it's going to prevent system errors. So, and administrative issues. So please be mindful of that. The next slide, please. Another, next slide, please. Thank you. So another frequently asked question the regional office receives is, if we could go back one slide, please. So we're looking at, yep, no submit button. So we hear that when a person-centered plan is in clarification, CCSs are reporting that the submit button is missing. This happens because there haven't been any edits made to the PCP, the person-centered plan. So the CCS must edit the PCP based on the clarification request. And once changes are made, that submit button will appear, allowing the plan to be submitted to the regional office for review. So just always remember the clarification, always review, the clarification request carefully and ensure necessary updates are made to avoid delays in submission. And this information can also be found in the LTSS Maryland troubleshooting guidance if you ever need to refer to that. Next slide, please. Automatically generating service end dates. Another frequent LTSS question that comes to the office is that when we're adding a second service line in the detailed service authorization section of the person-centered plan, the previous service line is automatically generating an end date. This cause is still currently under investigation, but to prevent this issue, the following has to be completed in this order. So you want to add the new service without the provider number. Then you want to manually enter the end date for the old service, so the previous service line. And then you want to add the provider number to the second service line. So it's some additional actions CCSs could do to support this investigation. Take screenshots of the issue, submit the help desk ticket, and then once you receive an incident number, it's the INC, share it with the regional office. Remember, following this process, that workaround 1, 2, 3, it's going to ensure a smoother transition between the service lines and prevent those PCP delays. Next slide, please. We're going to be going over policy and program updates. And we have Mary Ann with us to go over some additional resources and other related activities to support CCSs and working with their families, individuals and families, excuse me.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicolette. I hope everyone is well. Okay, so as CCSs work with individuals and their families, please know, especially those that don't already know, that the Developmental Disability Administration provides a comprehensive list, although it's not exhaustive, of key statewide resources, supports, and services available to children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities on our website. These resources are designed to assist people and their families throughout all stages of their lives, helping them to live their best life. The supports and services listed are offered through government agencies, nonprofits, and private organizations that do in fact serve the entire state. They are organized according to the Charting the Life course life domains, which include daily life and employment, community living, safety and security, healthy living, social and spirituality, and advocacy and community engagement. This morning, we'd like to focus on community living. Within this category, you'll find resources tailored for children, adults that are aging, and families. It includes everything from housing to transportation, advocacy to access to services such as 211, as well as recreation and state and local parks. For instance, are you familiar with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources and their Accessibility for All program? If not, you really want to check this out. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources is committed to making the state's natural spaces accessible to everyone. They've gone to great efforts to make and to ensure that camping areas, cabins, docks, trails, and other outdoor amenities accommodate people with disabilities. DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, continuously works to improve accessibility and train staff to assist visitors with diverse needs. Visit its website for a listing, and it'll list it in alphabetical order of all the state public lands that provide accessible outdoor recreational opportunities, such as cabins, camper cabins, campsites, playgrounds, adapted recreation equipment, fishing piers, picnic areas, and much more. And if this isn't enough, please share with the people you support and their families information about its Universal Disability Pass, which is a free lifetime pass that doesn't require renewal. How about that? So check out the Department of Natural Resources is one of many resources we offer on our Maryland statewide resource page. We hope you'll take the time to check it and the others out, all in an effort to better support the people and to support those folks and their families. Thank you very much. And next slide, please.
Thank you. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Christy, the DDA Statewide Coordinator of Self-Directed Services. Just have a couple of reminders for you all this morning. So the first is our participant or their designated representative may authorize individuals to contact their financial management and counseling services provider by phone or email on the participant's behalf. That's a may. It's not required, but they may authorize these folks. As of the beginning of this month, that authorization can be documented in the participant agreement in a new designated section, which is on page 5. When another individual is authorized to contact the financial management and counseling services provider on the participant's behalf, the participant or their designated representative may be, but does not have to be, on the phone call. The participant, their designated representative, and their coordinator must be copied on all emails to the financial management and counseling services provider. This authorization is available regardless of which option in the participant agreement is chosen, either 1, 2, or 3. You can use this authorization for. These authorized individuals may not make decisions on the participant's services or supports, but may discuss issues and address questions with the FMCS provider. The information must be shared with the participant, their designated representative as applicable, and their coordinator of community service. When the authorization is granted, the CCS must email a copy of the participant agreement to the FMCS provider in addition to uploading the document into LTSS Maryland. So that's my update on participant agreements. I have one more reminder regarding wage exception forms. So just a reminder, wage exception forms do not have to be completed annually. They don't have to be completed annually. They are a form that stays with the employee during their employment. A new wage exception form would only be needed if there is a change in a rate, if the person wants to increase the rate, if a new employee is hired, or if the participant changes financial management and counseling services providers. Next slide.
All right. Thank you. Now we'll be going over some LTSS March updates. If we can go to the next slide, please. In the next few slides, right, we're going to be providing an overview of LTSS Maryland updates that have taken place last weekend. So we're going to begin with the person-centered plan update that has caused CCSs to see an error message stating, quote, units for, let's say hypothetically March cannot be less than the previously authorized amount. After that appears after a CCS is completing a PCP after an auto extend has generated. So this update will ensure that the units are calculated using the hours rather than the direct units, and it will remove that error previously received that is shown above. Next slide, please. If a CCS submits or a regional office approves an annual person-centered plan that does not list services, units, and or a provider for services that are generated on the auto extend PCP, an error will generate. This happens when the annual plan is created or approved after the auto extend generates. So the CCS will need to add the service to the annual plan with units equal or greater than what was listed for the months associated with the auto extend. Next slide, please. So as we've worked together to troubleshoot issues in many of our meetings, the next 3 updates regard monitoring and follow-up, which are a product of our collaboration. The first update regards the status of a monitoring and follow-up form when a CCS submits a new priority category assessment and it is approved by the regional office. The status will accurately reflect pending and allow the CCS to complete their monitoring and visit form. Next slide, please. Monitoring and follow-up status change. This will ensure that monitoring and follow-up forms are no longer duplicate monitoring copies, multiple copies. Oh my, excuse me. Let me try that again. So this update is going to ensure that monitoring and follow-up forms no longer duplicate multiple copies after an auto extend generates. And this is what it'll look like. It'll just be clean, right? All right, next slide. And this last update will ensure that duplicative monitoring and follow-up forms are not generated when an overall decision form is completed with a waiver enrollment date in the past. So in this example, let's say that the program waiver enrollment was March 15th of 2024. The overall decision form to enroll the person was completed in 2025, 1 year later. Currently, what this will do is cause, well, previously, not currently because it's been updated, but what this would do is cause duplicate monitoring and follow-up forms to be generated with due dates in the past. And now only the current monitoring and follow-up form will generate. Next slide. So EDD, the Eligibility Determination Division, will now have the ability to acknowledge the receipt of client attachments for the categories of financial documents, the MA application, and the redetermination application sections. After an attachment is uploaded against one of these categories, EDD will find the attachment via the Applications and Financial Documents report, which will then allow them to navigate into the client record to retrieve the attachment and then use the acknowledgement function to indicate they have received it. So CCSs will not receive an alert when EDD acknowledges an attachment, but they can utilize the Applications and Financial Documents report or they can look within the client's record as indicated in the figure on the screen. Next slide, please. The overall decision form is utilized by EDD to document program enrollment decisions across all of the waiver programs. This form is used for denials, approvals, and disenrollments and drives other processes in LTSS Maryland, such as billing. This form currently has to be manually completed in LTSS Maryland, even though EDD is actually making decisions in their E&E systems. So an automation was put in place to generate the overall decision form in LTSS Maryland based on those actions taken by EDD in E&E and MMIS data. This will be transferred to LTSS Maryland on a nightly basis. And beginning, so this functionality overall is going to be released incrementally. And this past weekend on the 17th, a nightly file will be sent for all waiver programs, so including our own community pathways, family supports, and community, for denial overall decision forms. So for our waiver programs, it'll be a nightly file for denial overall decision forms will be transferred. So future releases will include the approval overall decision forms and the disenrollment overall decision forms. The image on the screen above displays when overall decision forms are successfully imported into LTSS Maryland. You'll see it says submitted, and that it was last modified by the system administrator. So the status will say submitted, and then it was last modified by the system administrator. So you'll know it was a transition overnight with the E&E system. Next slide, please. All right. If an overall decision form is sent to LTSS Maryland that has a missing required piece of information, you'll see this in the format of the overall decision form that is last modified by the system administrator, and the status will say in progress. EDD will utilize the overall decision form report to monitor the forms that are imported with errors that they will need to manually review and correct in order to submit. Next slide. The current process that's in place is to send an alert to the assigned CCS when an overall decision form is submitted. That will stay in place regardless of whether the form is submitted via the automation process or manually by an EDD user. Next slide. And excuse me, 4 new reports are added that CCS users will now have access to. This will help monitor and track items related to the authorization to participant questionnaire, the eligibility determination division related to client attachments, financial eligibility form, and the overall decision form from EDD. So the ATP, just to give a little summary of each, the ATP questionnaire summary report, it can be utilized to monitor where the ATPs are in the workflow process, as well to get clarity on whether EDD has acknowledged the receipt of the ATP questionnaire that have been submitted to them. The report for applications and financial document it's a mouthful. Applications and financial documents attachment report. CCS users can use this report to monitor attachments that have been uploaded, as well to get clarity on whether EDD has acknowledged the receipt of those attachments. The financial eligibility forms report. This can be used to monitor where the financial eligibility decisions are in the workflow process. And then the overall decision forms report can be utilized where overall decision forms are in the workflow process. Next slide, please. All right. Taking a little bit of drink of water. Excuse me. So we understand, what's next, what's going on. We wanted to let you know we're updating the person-centered plan checklist. This includes the regional, the CCS, and the provider checklist. The DDA is also working on delivering CCS required trainings, such as the Columbus trainings and the person-centered planning trainings. And we are starting to meet with the Office of Eligibility Service, and we would like your input on agenda ideas. So if you have any items or questions, please share those with me and Amma, and that will help to inform the meeting. So if you can send them to us by Friday, that would be very helpful. Next slide, please. So we have been receiving many reports from participants and their teams about difficulties reaching out to their coordinator of community services. And with that, we wanted to remind you that during this heightened time, to be sure to clearly communicate. Remember, participants and their teams should know who to contact if they're not able to reach their CCS. And they should always be aware of who to report any concerns to if they're dissatisfied with their CCS or their supervisor. We want to really set expectations, right? So establish what that clear response time is to promote transparency and efficiency. We want to be timely and responsive. So CCSs should be proactive, take initiative, and anticipate those needs of participants. And then, of course, in urgent situations that occur after hours, after normal business hours, directing participants and their teams to your agency's emergency service line for immediate assistance. So, of course, addressing any concerns proactively will enhance communication, build trust, and ensure participants are receiving those supports that they need. Next slide, please. So just a reminder, the LTSS Maryland Monthly Spotlight in February, there were some enhancements and bug fixes. One being that there was an issue corrected where users were receiving an object reference error when trying to save information within the PCP that was copied from another PCP that did not have an effective date on it or any services. And it was causing issues with the system trying to establish the recalculated service cost for that PCP. And then we also had corrected an issue where the service authorization section was not correctly displaying on the authorized representative signature page when it was printed. So that has also been corrected. Okay, next slide. All right. Again, thank you for coming today, and thank you for your flexibility. If you ever need to refer back to any of our recording webinars, You can find them on the DDA YouTube page or DDA's dedicated CCS website. Today was heavy in LTSS Maryland. If any of those updates are not working as intended, please submit an LTSS help desk ticket as soon as possible. And if there's anything critical, please let us know. And now we will be going into questions. And Marissa Mayton, our CCS lead in the Western Maryland Regional Office, is going to be helping us with questions today. Again, she will be calling out on you to read your question, just to ensure we are clearly understanding the ask and we don't misrepresent your ask. So, Marissa, if you could please.
Yep, the first question is from Denise Campbell. If you want to unmute yourself and ask your question. Nicolette, do you just want me to read the question?
We just opened up the mic, so everybody should be able to unmute.
Denise, are you able to unmute yourself? Nicolette, do you want me to just read the question?
Yeah, that's
This
fine.
one says, what if a person does not have two primary respondents available for assessment?
This is Stephanie for the CIS assessment. If the person has um, their CCS can be a respondent, as well as um, you can work with the CIS assessor or who else, the intelligent representative, to find out who else would be considered a reasonable participant in that assessment. Or- Yeah, or I should say acceptable participant. I'm sure most people have two people that they work with in their life that can participate in that in the assessment, and they can do sometimes the assist can be done virtually so that everybody can attend.
The next question, Shanika Johnson, you were looking for clarification on something you had sent earlier in the meeting. If you can unmute yourself.
Hi, yes. I do not recall which meeting. It really wasn't that long ago. Probably in the last 2 weeks or so. But we were told not to end date any of the services. We were told to zero out the remaining of the time, like uncheck the months, and then check the months on the new service or the new provider. So I was trying to figure out if this has been changed or which one is really the direction we should go to.
Yeah, so I think with this specific issue, if this is the issue that you're referring to, and again, check out the slides just to confirm. This is the confirmed workaround issue workaround resolution that we had um, developed with our LTSS team.
So yes, end date, or no, don't end date. Because in this presentation, you guys said to complete the end date at the top, but in the meeting like a few weeks ago, we were not to do any end dates. We just zero out the service.
So if it is for this issue specifically, right, where there's an automatic end date for the previous service line, then you have to follow those step-by-step instructions that we were referring to. And if it is delivered today, then you should follow these accordingly.
Okay. So are you indicating that my question only applies to a specific thing that we have to do? And so, like, the zeroing out is what we should do most of the time. And then if there's a specific issue with an automatic end date, then we're following what you said today.
Right,
Are
this
these
is,
two different things, or are we just one thing and now you're doing a new instruction?
I think it really depends on what it is. I would recommend following up with your regional office because maybe they need to look at it. In this instruction, I would look at, what that issue is. If it is to this issue, then these are the steps you should follow. But if you're not sure, then work with your regional office and they'll help confirm that with you.
Okay.
Next is Rebecca Enders.
Good morning. So on slide 15, I just want to confirm we had this exact example and was told to discard the PCP and create the annual based off the auto extend plan. So I just want to ensure we should be doing this workaround instead of discarding.
So since this was released this week, I don't
Okay.
know. Yeah, this was released this week. So the 17th, March 17th over the weekend.
Okay, perfect. So we could have, I'll double check on when we got that feedback, but we will try this workaround. Thank you so much. We love not having to discard.
Yeah, of course.
Anastasia Hill Brine is next. Sorry if I said your last name wrong, Anastasia. I can read.
I think she's just reporting something and asking for advice. I would say that at this time, if they're having issues for LTSS concerns, follow up on submit the LTSS help desk ticket. If you had already sent it to me or the regional offices, I can speak for myself. I was out on medical leave for a week, so I appreciate your patience as I'm catching up on some things, but please continue to submit LTSS help desk tickets and work with your regional office.
All right, Larissa Nash, if you're able to unmute yourself.
Hi, Nicolette. It's actually Rosemary. I inadvertently deleted your invitation, so I logged in under my colleague Larissa's account, I think. So I have two questions in here. The first one had to do with the 23% of people who are working CIE. I'd love to know what percentage of the people of those 23% are actually maintaining their waiver eligibility. We've had a lot of trouble understanding what the navigation process is for people who are earning competitive income. And I've reached out to all of you many times, and yet we're still not sure what people need to do. So I'm wondering if the state is going to prioritize ensuring that people who are working in competitive employment are able to maintain their waiver eligibility, and will DDA produce a process map for those people. So is a process map in the works for people who must use EID to get their waiver or their MA eligibility?
Okay, twofold question. I think maybe um, they had ICI, Kara, our presenters today, answered that first part. I don't want to misrepresent what they said. So when this video is recorded, I'll send it back to you. Or we could also ask a follow-up question in the email, because what I do recall them saying is that that percentage was for people who are self-reporting who are currently in the waiver. Secondly, what this SELN training helps with is that question in itself, right? Maintaining, addressing those types of concerns, really, right? Competitive integrated of employment and maintaining eligibility and so forth. So I highly recommend that because it goes over some resources and talking points and tips for, again, it's twofold. It's the supervisor one where it's a collaborative group and you can talk about these things, and then also the CCS one, which is just the course module itself. So I highly recommend those. But I will take that feedback. I think that should, if it was related to that, and then I could take this back to the team about the mapping that you're referring to.
Okay. So as clarification, DDA does not have a mapping tool that tells people who are working in competitive employment which application they need to submit, when, and how to ensure that they maintain their eligibility for waiver services when they get their redetermination notifications. So does a person who is working in CIE complete the redetermination application that everybody else gets? Maybe let's ask that question. Do they complete that redetermination application?
I'm not able to answer this. I might have to defer to our eligibility. I'm not sure if they're with us today.
I'm here, Nicolette. Good morning, everyone. So once an individual receives redetermination letter, they have to complete that. If you have additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to the regional offices or to the EDD caseworker.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is also about EDD. And we're seeing lots of odd things happen into LTSS, and we're hearing from providers about lack of payment for services. So it made me start wondering um, if people whose are participants no longer given 6-month grace period for waiver eligibility following their redetermination dates.
So it's my understanding that there is a 120-day grace period, but again, you would have to reach out to EDD for clarification. But there's no 6-month consideration period for for the redetermination. That 6-month consideration period only applies to the initial MA waiver application. Did I answer your question?
No. So in the past,
Mm-hmm.
when a person's redetermination was not decided by EDD by their redetermination date, so say March 1st was their redetermination date, and EDD hadn't processed their application to be approved by March 1st, they were extended until such time as 6 months passed. Their letters used to say you have 6 months to get what we need, or yada, yada, yada. And what we've found out happening recently is that people get letters on their redetermination date closing their accounts, and that also seems to be hitting a button of some sort in LTSS that doesn't allow providers to bill for reimbursement of the waiver services. So we're seeing that there's if EDD hits a button that says the person didn't have their redetermination done by their expiration date, it looks as if payment for services ends. And I'm wondering if it seems like this is a change, and I guess I'm just trying to get clarification um, as to whether there are no longer that 6-month grace period for people who are already in a waiver.
We will have to take this back to our partners at Medicaid for feedback. But again, when a redetermination letter is sent out and it has a due date, it's really important that we try to meet that due date, submit all the requested documentation by that due date. As far as processing is concerned, we will share that with our Medicaid partners for review. But again, I encourage you to encourage families and people that when you receive that redet letter, that due date is the due date, and to make every effort to try to submit the documents by that due date.
And as a follow-up, because we don't have access to My MD Think as coordinators of community services, and our the people that we serve sometimes complete their redeterminations online. Does EDD send a verification that they have received applications when people submit their redetermination applications?
I am not aware of that process. But what I do know is that LTSS Maryland is our system of record. And for us to be able to confirm that that is completed, we're encouraging people to ask families for copies so that that can be uploaded into the client's client attachment so that we can reference that when needed.
Right, but when people are completing it online, I'm wondering if anybody knows whether or not the participant has the capacity to PDF the application. We have not seen that they have been able to do that. So I don't know that there's any way for them to give us a record when they submit their redeterminations online.
We can add that to the agenda items that Nicolette mentioned earlier and ask.
Thank you.
Next is Luann Wells.
Hi, it's Chrissy Peterson from SCI. Luann had to step out, so I can follow up with her question. Um, the question is about, do we know the anticipated time frame for the release of the person-centered plan checklist that you mentioned? And if you could share any anticipated changes, that would be great too.
Stephanie, are you around? All right, I don't think Stephanie is on. She is leading the person-centered planning checklist updates. So I unfortunately do not have a time frame right now at hand. We are, or those components, but we can get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah. And I saw you ask that under your name as well, so.
Sorry, I was on mute. Next is Tracy Slavin.
I actually already got my question answered, but thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Um, Daniel Sabo.
Yeah, good morning. I was just curious if we have a time frame for when the CIS assessment is complete, when it is transferred to the LTSS system. Do we?
We can, since we can get back with Stephanie as well to answer that.
Okay, thanks.
Sure, of course. All right, good. I believe it's nightly, but we have to confirm.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the next one. Larissa Nash, that might be Rosemary again.
Yep. I'll read it. Is there any reason that a person who has fallen out of the waiver shouldn't complete an application and submit it to EDD? Does DDA require that a person be placed on a waive before that MA application is submitted? And if so, well, I'll leave it at that.
Hi, this is Amma again. Yes. Once a person chooses that they want to reapply, they should reach out to the regional office. This is in the communication that was sent out, I believe December 16th of last year, that you have to reach out to the regional offices. Once the person is added to a waive, you can proceed with the concurrent eligibility process for them.
So until we get some kind of notification back from DDA, we should not encourage people to submit those applications independent of the CCS?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
That was the last question, but Sherelle Towns does have their hand raised.
Great, thank you. Go ahead. Charlie, are you able to unmute yourself? All right. Okay. Well, to conclude, again, any of those questions that we would like, so the eligibility for the agenda, all of these questions that would be really helpful for an overview from the team. Again, please submit them to me and Amma. We are working on an agenda. We're collaborating with them, but we want to hear from you what's most important and some suggestions, questions, feedback that you would like them to go over. So please send them to us so that we can ensure that it's covered. All right. Anything else comes up, I will get back to you on a few of those others, like the CIS and the person-centered time frame, the contents. And again, if you are interested in those SELN courses, please reach out to me and Stephanie. Again, they will count towards employment first training, and they're really great. I mean, I know a lot of you have taken it. The supervisory one is really great too, but it does address a lot of these concerns and questions that we have when we're speaking to families and participants that might be, really frequently asked questions and sorry. All right, everybody. I hope you're all well. Please take care of one another, and thank you for all of the work that you do. And take care of yourselves as well. Take care. I hope you all have a lovely day. And thank you for attending.